Welcome to this episode of the Voices for Voices TV show and podcast. I am founder and executive director of Voices for Voices, Justin Allen Hayes. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for all the support you've given us as an organization for our show. And we couldn't do this and have this platform without you. So again, thank you. Whether you started at the beginning with us or whether you're just hopping on and catching us for the first time, welcome aboard. We'd love to have you, and if you're able to share and like our TV show and podcast, regardless of what platform it's on, whether it's the video platform like Rumble or YouTube, or not audio podcasting like Odyssey, iHeart, Spotify, you name it, we're there. So you can rest assured that there's a lot of great content that we have already, and there's even more. So excited for 2025. We've got a new and improved merchandise shop that's up on our website. So take a look. There's something for everyone, and we're still going towards that goal of helping 3 billion people over the course of my lifetime and beyond. So we've done a few of these episodes off cycle from our Wednesday launches, and we're going to continue to bring content to you when it comes to mind. So whether those are the in studio episodes, or whether those are remote episodes on location at my residence, we're gonna do that because we don't want to, as an organization and as a human, we don't want to limit ourselves to have to be creative at always one specific day and time. So there are, again, stipulations, and there are guardrails for our studio time, and so we do that. But if an idea, if news, if an experience occurs off studio hours, that could be the day, the night, weekend, weekday, we're going to do that. We're going to bring as much helpful content, and through guests, through experiences, through news, and we're bringing up which I would say like maybe the last 6 months or so, 6-7 months, we're putting episodes around true crime and celebrities, and just some experiences that are happening in Northeast Ohio, and some that aren't. But the thing is, whether those experiences are happening in Northeast Ohio or not, there are parallels that we're bringing to light. Like one of our previous episodes, we talked about the suicide a couple years ago of Stephen Twitch Boss, and how that has and continues to impact his children and his widow, with the children still not fully grasping that their father he's not gonna be able to come home. And so I went through the parallel of my story, my experience with my father's passing, and a couple of experiences with my daughter that had occurred. And so while we talk about a story that's in Hollywood, California, we bring that right back home to Northeast Ohio. So wanted to cover that right here at the outset. Another big story, and that's a huge parallel. While the actual event itself might be a little bit different, the impact and the trauma is is, is similar to other events. And so, what are we talking about? We're talking about the wildfires in Southern California, where acres upon acres, home upon home, car upon car are completely at a loss. Cars melted, houses, multi-million dollar houses, no more. Uh, these wildfires. Well, we're in Ohio. We don't have wildfires. You're probably saying, what do wildfires have to do with us in Ohio, in Northeast Ohio? Well, maybe the wildfire, maybe that term, that natural disaster, unless it turns out to be arson, where somebody purposely started one or all or of those fires. Trauma, whether it is due to losing a house, a car, a school, a place of worship, a restaurant, a sporting venue, concert hall, concert venue. We take a thing, and that is a house, and we have all those memories that have occurred in that. And we take a school, all those interactions with teachers and students and students and students. We take these experiences and these things and we move them in one way or another. And so wildfires, unfortunately, are taking a lot of structures, a lot of buildings, a lot of cars, just a lot of things, just totally destroy and burn them to the ground, literally. And so there are people who have had maybe some had a day or two, others maybe they had a matter of minutes of, but we got to evacuate. It's not a lot of time. How do we decide what to bring with us? What do I absolutely need? What is unreplaceable? Well, I'll tell you what one thing is, and it's at the top of the list. It's life. It's you and I. It's humans. We're not able to replace those. So that's first and foremost. So at the very least, hey, let's get everybody out, and that'll be our first step. And we'll go step by step, minute by minute, and go that route. Okay, where are we going to stay? Where are we going to get food from? And all those questions need to be answered. But at the outset, we can't replace the human lives. So that's happening out in California, here in Ohio, or anywhere across the United States of America, or across the world. We can't replace life. So if a similar type of an event were to be happening, where we're awoken in the middle of the night, and the residence where we're living is somehow caught on fire, that's what we're doing, right? First thing is wake everybody up, get everybody out of the house, out of the condo, out of the apartment, out of the dorm, out of the duplex, first and foremost. So while the wildfires are on a much greater scale of acreage and the amount of homes and structures and vehicles and the like. We bring that to anywhere in the United States, anywhere in the world, and that could occur to any of us. Talking in singularity here. It could happen to my residence. And if that were to occur, hopefully I would be able to be awoken before the flames and the smoke, fill the lungs and all that. But those same decisions would be going through my mind of, okay, let's get everybody woken up. Let's get out of here. And if we have any, I'll say extra time, but what else are we gonna? What can we take? What can we? And that's gonna be dictated by how much time we have. So, again, we're taking a story that is not happening in Northeast Ohio. We're not having wildfires here. In Southern California, they are. And at the time of our airing of this show, we hope and pray that all the wildfires have been put out, and all the lives that were in those structures can be accounted for, and we have the least amount of casualties. We hope for zero. We don't want any casualties, and so that would be the same as I am here talking to you, either by video, TV, or audio to podcast. That if any of that were to happen to my family and my residents, we don't want any loss of life. Period. Full stop. And so that would be, again, that's the top of the list. That's the number one thing, the A thing, the first thing. And then from there, we work our way through the process. So whether, again, we're in Southern California, we're in Northeast Ohio, whether we're in Buenos Aires, Argentina, whether we're in Tokyo, Japan, whether we're in Rome, Italy, similar events could potentially happen and have happened, unfortunately, at one time or another, no matter where we live. And so we think about that impact of how, regardless of where you live, and how the fire started, and that's called trauma. So we're taking something that we have. So we have a residence of some sort, hopefully, and we displace something. So we talked in the previous episode, displacing, taking a family member and having them pass away. Then how do we move on from that? Or do we? And how can we? And how does that impact us? And so in this case, for this episode, we're talking about a fire event, either at a small scale or large scale. We would be taking a home, a residence, a dorm, whatever that structure is, and we're moving that, or in this case, taking it away of, a fire occurs, and our house, our residence is no more. There's nothing left. When all the smoke clears, you can see right through the yard or next door. There's no walls up, there's no roof up, there's no doors, there's no windows, no siding, no brick. Everything is leveled and completely gone. So that's going to affect us, right? So first thing is we want to have no loss of life. That's the number one goal. But then we want to work through the list from, okay, we have everybody, or as many as we possibly can, or that the first responders are able to help us with. And then we go to the next thing. And so in the moment, right, sometimes we make these rash decisions like, let's do this because, right, we're faced with, I got 20 minutes and I got to get everything I can. I got to get out. So one of the big things that we can do is to put some type of, doesn't have to be some huge elaborate plan, but if event A were to happen, here's the order of importance of what we want to try our best, or have a first responder help try their best to help bring with us. So if we're able to do that, that helps lower the stress when we hope the event never happens. But for the individuals on that large scale with the California wildfires, to go through that list and have gone through that prior to the event happening of the wildfires starting and moving and gaining strength with the winds and hopping across roads and going from one area A to area B, from street A to street B. Yeah. If we go over things ahead of time, makes things during the time of stress of when that event's happening, we can go through that a lot quicker and a lot more efficiently and have a better chance, given the time. How much time do we have? We don't really know how much any of us have time-wise on Earth. But if there were a fire event on small scale, large scale, if it were to impact you and I as individuals, as family members, the more things that we would have been able to prepare for would make it in that moment of, okay, I went from one moment, everything's okay, the next moment, everything's not okay. And then we know we get scatterbrained. I get scatterbrained without a whole lot of humongous events that happen. So I'm speaking for myself. So when events happen that raise that cortisol level, raise how stressed, and call that trauma. So there's low trauma, and then there's high trauma. It just depends on the event, the thing, the experience, and then you and I, just as human beings, where we process things a little bit the same and a little bit different. So we have that communication plan, or the list of what we would like to bring if Lord heaven forbid, an event like that were to occur. And then so we call that like short term too, right? So it's happening right now. I got 20 minutes. I got a minute. So those are short term, high leverage. High leverage decisions that need to be made. Like, I need to make it now. I can't wait 3 hours to make that decision. So it's high leverage, like, everybody out. Can we get to a vehicle? Do we have gas? Or if it's an electric vehicle, is it charged? And then we go on to the next thing. And we do the best we can, right? We're humans. We by being a human, we make errors. We Nobody's perfect, so we shouldn't expect yourself or myself or anybody else to be perfect. We can try our best, but we know that nobody's perfect. So that's where that plan would be helpful. So again, so those were called like short term decisions that need to be made. And then we talk about short term, the medium term. Okay, where are we going to stay? Do we have family in the area? Do we have access to a hotel, a motel? And we work that way. Okay, then we go, what about food? And then what about clothing? And so we talk about short term and like, okay, what are we going to do like right now? Where are we going to go right now? The medium term is, in a couple weeks, a month, 2 months. What are we going to do for those things? What are we going to do for living arrangements? What are we going to do for clothing, for food, for security? And then longer term, we're looking at, are we going to, let's just hypothetically say it's a house. Are we going to rebuild a house? Or are we going to look at a condo, a pre-built? And so those will be the longer term, that we're not going to go from things okay, things aren't okay. So 1 second things are okay, the next second things aren't okay, and have the third second be like, well, no, we're going to start rebuilding the house tomorrow. Like that's just not feasible. We can have thoughts in our mind, but we're not going to be able to act on it no matter how much we want to. I hope we're going to rebuild on this specific site. There's going to be probably insurance claims that'll be filed. Hopefully there would be some assistance if insurance isn't able to recover and provide the funding and the things and the food and the vehicles and those types of things, that maybe there is some government intervention that can, on an emergency level, that would come through, and it would come through fast and efficient. Not like what we saw in North Carolina when the hurricane went through there, and there were $750 vouchers that are given to people that have lost everything, and their vouchers, because they're to be repaid. It wasn't even just, here's $750. You don't have to repay us. No. In that case, and people found out, and that's one of the things about sometimes things, we think they can't get any worse, and then they do. So we just do the best we can with the resources, with the people that we have, and we move on that route. And so also with that is kind of that mental health. Like, how are we doing? Or we do have added stress. Like, oh my gosh, now if we have with children, like how are my children holding up, and how are they going to react, and on top of how we're going to react as hopefully the adults in the room to some extent. And so we gotta think about that, because if we don't have ourselves, then we don't have ourselves. So that's that. And if we don't have our physical health, then that could be again not a great way to go about things if we're able to impact those. And then the same thing inside. So we've talked ad nauseum, we're talking about mental health and the stigma. Well, there's still stigma. Oh, it's taboo to talk about these things, or this particular set of things. Like we got one of our videos where we were literally talking through an article that was written, and the topics were dealing with sex offenses and how these had happened, and that there was in this particular instance that there was a doctor, and this was the individual who we were talking about. Like, this doctor was doing this, and so we were just kind of working our way through this, and we were using terms, but yet there's still platforms where we can't, we can't use terminology, certain words, and we as an organization look at things and say, well, we're just saying what the facts are. We're just saying what happened. And so while we can sugarcoat things, I think we're finding out that the more sugarcoating we do, the harder things are going to hit us as individuals. Like, there's going to be a point, whatever we're concerned about, well, we can't use this term to talk about this story, even though it's the fact. There's eventually people are going to find out, and they're going to either learn through shows like ours, from experiences of our guests and ourselves, and news stories and parallels that we draw, or they're going to go through things themselves, and then how are individuals going to react, and how are they going to process information. So if there's a news story and terms are used, and we say that use those terms that are in the news story, that's what's going to resonate with you, with people, with other followers, other supporters. That's what's going to, we have to say the quiet thing out loud. And I even saw, referring back to that episode about Twitch taking his own life a couple years ago, and how their family and friends, they were given grief. I don't say grief, giving a hard time to his widow, talking about like the drugs, and were they his, were they Twitch's, were they the widow Allison, but their friends and family and others are saying we shouldn't be talking about that. Like, we can't talk, it's too taboo to talk about that, because they're taking a bad situation and making it worse. Well, if there are drugs involved, how can we maybe help things to a person in the future who might be dealing with some similar things. And so the fact that people are giving me a hard time about the actual, again, we're talking about terminology. Oh, we don't want to talk about this. We can't say that term. Well, either we're gonna learn it through an educational source, which I would argue that we're more of an educational, providing information, sharing voices for voices. So we're a voice for ourselves or somebody else in need. And when we share these stories, those voices might be people that are unfortunately no longer on earth, that they're in heaven. And so we have to share, we have to be upfront, we need to talk about those. Because in that story, that doctor who was having these sex offenses against minors, there was a victim that took this doctor's instructions, and she hung herself, and she's no longer living, 13 years old. But yet we're going to tell the family that, oh, well, we can't use those terms because, I don't know. So we've just drawn some parallels this episode from the wildfires to a situation that could happen to us and individually, and how we just have to look out for ourselves and others. And we need to just, use the terms, say what it is, like Tyrus says, what it is. And so until next time, we'll see you on another episode of our TV show and podcast.